are live on YouTube, and make sure that it's working here, and it is. Wonderful. Welcome everybody. Today we have one of our members, Aidan, here from, where are you in the UK, Aidan?
Sunny Scarborough.
Sunny
It's currently really, really dull and snowing.
Yeah, right. What country is Scarborough in? You've got a...
England.
England. Yeah, okay. Yeah, awesome. All right. I don't know the UK that well, but we've got lots of members from the UK. We've got members in Scotland and Ireland and everywhere, all over. All right. So I'm actually, for those of you that are wondering why I'm half, my attention isn't here, I'm just sharing the link with our tribe inside the UMS online coaching because Aidan is one of our long-term members in here. How long have you been with us for now, Aidan?
About a year and a half, I think. Full UMS member. And then before that, I had the stretching and the mobility workouts that I was doing to try and increase a bit of mobility.
Mm-hmm. Hang on a sec.
You know that we give those away for free now, the stretching and mobility programs.
Yeah,
I do.
Isn't it?
Brilliant.
We're trying our best. It's funny, when we launched our very first online program, it was the mobility workout, and people got such a good result from it. And we actually just took it from a component of some of the stuff we were teaching in the gym. And we never, ever anticipated that so many people around the world would find it so useful and beneficial. I mean, we did it every day as part of our routine. And yeah, it just took off. It was just wild. And that was the very first product that we launched online. And then off the back of that, we thought, well, we should probably launch the program that we teach in the gym and see how that goes. And that's what led us to where we are now. Pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it definitely helped me.
It definitely
helped me because it got me from being really stiff to just being able to move. We're doing Taekwondo. It was just a new world, able to kick high, and it was just excellent. It really was.
Yeah, it really works. It was the same for
Tell
Yanni
me,
and
before we talk about Aidan's story, tell me what is how much of your training, now that you've been with us for a year and a half, how much of your training is focused specifically on flexibility? Like, do you find that it's more a maintenance thing now, or is it still a primary goal for you to keep increasing flexibility?
It's still a primary goal. It's something I've always wanted. Everyone wants the middle splits. You see a Van Damme film, and that's what you want, isn't it? But it's taken a bit of a back burner because I started doing the weights, the UMS the whole thing, and just really enjoyed it. So my focus went to that instead.
Yep. Yeah, that's what happened. That's pretty much the same thing that happened to me.
And me, we all start going, oh my God, we want to do that middle splits or sort of chest to floor pancake or something like that. And then over time, once you achieve a really good standard of flexibility, you start to, I don't know, you're in Taekwondo, so it's different. I don't do a mixed martial art like that anymore. My focus is primarily around just weightlifting and increases in strength and maintaining that mobility, that high level of mobility that we've achieved, But Rad and I, the reason I ask is Rad and I were talking about this yesterday because we're designing phases 13 to 24 at the moment in the UMS, and we're just talking about some specialization programs that we're going to plug in at different phases of that we've used over the years to sort of break through plateaus or accelerate our gains. And the conversation just came up of how many of our more experienced leadership members or clients still have a real emphasis or focus on flexibility, or have they followed the similar path to us where once you achieve quite a high level, it just becomes more of a maintenance thing, and as you pursue different goals. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, Rad, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to ask Aidan, for everybody, because we're going to talk about, for those of you who are listening, Aidan's just had knee surgery and he's made a really, really good recovery, and that's why I wanted to get him on the show. But before we delve into that, talk to me about where you were with your own training and where your body was that when you joined the UMS. So what frustrations did you have at that time around your health and fitness, and what were your desires for when you joined?
My main reason for joining was to basically help my taekwondo out. So, higher kicks, stronger, faster. But pre that, I didn't do any exercises at all. Never set foot in a gym. All the work I've done is at home. So I'll be honest, a bit out of shape. Not looking great. I think it was about 25% body fat. So
You're kidding.
that's come down a great deal. So
Man, you look like a weapon when I review your videos. I'm going to try and find some of your videos so that I can bring them up. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
So joined basically to get a bit better at Taekwondo. Started, if you remember, with the calisthenics journey because I wanted something else to focus on. First videos weren't that good. Straight arm strength was a bit of a ball ache. Had some good feedback to go for that. And then I listened to.
Oh, whoops! Hang on, Aidan.
You cut out his mic.
Sorry, you're still there, by the way, Aidan. Don't feel like we've lost you.
Yeah, so I think I was listening to the podcast for you guys, and you said, everyone would benefit from just starting with the UMS. So I messaged you, and we started on phase 1 and never really looked back since.
Yeah,
Certainly better than what I was.
Wow, mate, your body fat. Observing the video there, your body fat's come down a lot. If you were at around 25% when you started, that's a huge transformation. I know that we don't generally focus on physique transformation, but that's a pretty impressive.
You look like you wouldn't be more than 12%, I reckon. To look at you in these
14.7 according to the scales this morning.
According to the scales.
14.
I know it's not exact. But.
Yeah, look, I mean, you might be, but you can.
They're usually fairly close.
You can see your abs, though, can't you?
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, I would have thought that if you can see your abs, you would have been lower than 15%. But anyway, I'm no expert, so. But nonetheless, it's a bloody it's an impressive transformation. That's for damn sure. So well done. Well done.
Usually the linear alba, which is the line down the middle of the abs, if you can see that, you're sub 12%. Yeah.
And when did you, by the way, what you're about to watch, this is Aidan squatting after knee surgery. So this is Aidan squatting only a week or two ago. How many months after knee surgery are we now, Aidan?
3 months, I think.
3 months, yeah, beautiful. So when did you find out that you had that knee injury?
Honestly, I think I've carried it for quite a while, since the football days.
Yep.
I always had a pain in my left knee.
I laugh because that's how I did my knee. I was going to ask how you did your knee. Was it playing football?
Well, I think it was, but it never bothered me. I just kind of worked with the pain. Because my old job, it never really got in the way. And then when I started a new job as a gardener, working in an estate, doing a lot of kneeling down. So I was just kneeling down one day, and suddenly this cyst popped out the back of my knee. And that was it. Yeah. Knee locked. Couldn't walk. 2 weeks solid where I couldn't do anything. It was an absolute nightmare, to be fair. But,
yeah.
Yeah,
and that what Aidan's talking about there is sometimes referred to as a Baker's cyst, or there's a couple of different types of cyst, and it's a fluid buildup effectively because of inflammation. Like he's just capped the loading tolerance of the knee, and the knee's sort of said, "Hey, there's some stuff going on in here," you basically get this fluid buildup, which creates a pocket of fluid, a cyst, and that tends to really limit mobility. It makes it hard for the knee to flex and extend. I suffered the same thing. I got a really big Baker's cyst at the back of my knee, actually post-surgery, after my knee reconstruction, and it was one of the things that was the hardest to sort of overcome. It took ages.
I remember that cyst in your knee. So how good were you at pull-ups when you started, Aidan? Because I'm trying to find one of your pull-up videos because your pull-ups are unreal now. How could you do?
You just showed one before.
No, that was an arching
I could
scapular
do
pull-in.
I could do pull-ups, but not to the standard that it's kind of taught in the UMS.
Yeah,
So there's no scapular retraction or anything. Chest was the bar, but
yeah,
they didn't look tidy.
yeah, yeah. I remember you've made some significant change. So let's talk about your surgery then. So you opted for surgery 3 months ago, and I remember that you told me that the surgeon said that they were really happy with the state of your knee when you went for the surgery. So just remind us again, what were all the injuries that you had that you got surgery for?
So it was a meniscus tear, a labrum tear, and then the meniscal cyst, which he drained during the operation, which helped a lot.
Yep. And I remember you told me after the surgery, you said that when the surgeon looked at your knee, that he said that you've got really good muscle mass in your knee and that was going to positively affect your recovery.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. But if you remember, I think it was 12 weeks prior to the operation, because I knew it was going to happen, we started doing more on the knees, more balance and stuff. We went back to the actual knee rehab and did that before the surgery, which I think really helped really reinforce the stabilizers and the muscles that are in there. Yep.
Yanni, do you want to talk about what had gone on there? Because, Aidan said to me, I'm trying to remember now because we're going back 6 months now, but I remember we even had a little bit of a conversation where you were talking about potentially stopping your UMS training so that you could, just go through the surgery and then you'd come back afterwards. And then I convinced you that the better option would be to really double down on knee rehab and knee strength before the operation. Is that what happened, Aidan?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely...
There was definitely a moment where you were a bit disheartened, thinking, what am I going to be able to do with my training? And this is what so many people go through because unfortunately, a surgeon is an expert in surgery. I've got no idea how to do surgery, but a surgeon is not an expert in strength training and in knee rehab. And as much as people would like to think otherwise, a surgeon knows 2/5 of bugger all next to Yanni and me when it comes to the way that you should strength train safely for prehab and rehab. And they go off...
Well, hang on, wait. Let's be careful. Surgeons will have a very, very thorough understanding of rehab from the very point of surgical intervention to getting basic function happening again for general populations. But from that point on, they will refer you to a physiotherapist or a physical therapist to help. So usually the surgeon will have a blanket protocol that they give you post-surgery with a few exercises to get the knee moving again. I don't know if you experienced that. Did they give you a little sheet of paper or something like that with a guide of what they wanted you to do?
Yeah, so I got a sheet of paper with some drawings on it, doing things for people who can't actually get out of a chair.
Yeah.
That's right.
Meant for much older generation, I think, rather than a 41-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yanni,
that's the problem. The problem is that it's general information based on general populations for people who generally have very low expectations of what they want their body to do post-surgery. It's a very different story if you go to a surgeon who specializes in intervention on athletes. They will give you a entirely different protocol coming out of surgery, and it's usually a lot more intense. I don't want to just sort of say that surgeons have.
No, you're right. You're right. That was a silly blanket statement to say. You're right. But Yanni, why don't you talk us through?
One thing I just want to take a step back because there's no labrum in the knee. There's the menisci, but there's a labrum in the hip and shoulder. But it's different language, different nomenclature in the knee. What gives you the impression that you had a labrum tear in the knee? Was it the surgeon telling you that, or was it a physical therapist telling you that? I'm just trying to determine whether. Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, the menisci acts somewhat as a labrum in the knee, but it's definitely usually the nomenclature is different. They don't call it a labrum in the knee, but you could argue that that's what the menisci is, But I'm just wondering whether you had an ACL tear, like a ligament tear or something as well, which is very common in football injuries. That's what I had. I had a ACL, MCL, and meniscal tear in my knee, but it came from an incident that was very obvious. I put my knee in for a slide tackle, and the person running with the ball, although I got the ball out over the sideline, they just went straight through my knee, which sort of wedged my knee between the ground and his leg, and the knee dislocated sideways. So it was pretty brutal. Like you knew instantly that there was really bad damage. But often over time, like a bad meniscal tear will occur that you don't really know, and it just worsens over time, which may be the case with yourself, where you end up really aggravating it, like putting it in a position. Meniscal tears, any type of meniscal tear, but particularly some sort of a displaced or a flap tear, doesn't like really big flexion movements. So taking the knee through its full range of motion, because you've got this loose piece of cartilage in between there that can be rubbed every time the knee sort of rolls over it. And eventually what can happen is it displaces it. It just pushes it out of where it's meant to be sitting. Does that make sense? And all of a sudden you go from having a small tear to a big problem. And that's what happens with a lot of people. You'll cause a bit of damage playing football, and then over time it just worsens. But, it's funny because I don't want to freak everyone out that's watching this. When I went in for my most recent checkup with my surgeons, it was the first time I really got to speak to a surgeon who had a career dealing with athletes. And she looked at me, looked at my body, and just said, mate, meniscal tears are like wrinkles for someone your age who's been an athlete all your life. Everyone's got them. It's nothing to be freaked out about. It's like disc bulges in the spine. When I think it was during the Olympics, about 2 Olympics ago, they did a big study on athletes' spines to gauge the level of health of a high performing athlete's spine, and they found that the vast majority, I think 80% of competing athletes at that Olympics that they tested had disc bulges, but none of them knew it, and so people freak out when they go and get an MRI or a scan, and the physio or the radiologist says, oh, you've got a disc bulge, that's going to be the cause of all your problems. It's bullshit. Like most people have disc bulges by the age of 40 and don't even know it. Same with meniscal tears, but you can make them worse, you can aggravate them, and that's what I think may have happened. But I'm interested to know whether you had any sort of other ligament tear or something like that. But you'd probably know about it.
Yeah, nothing on the note that I saw. That's what it said on the note, but it's probably
I'd love to see it. Send it if you've got the report of your scans. Send them through to Rad or me. I'd love to have a look and see, because we can possibly even tweak your program even more based on what's going on in there. Anyway,
but I
don't have the scans. We don't get them with the NHS, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
What buggers.
Yeah. But if we go back to what you did, so, you were doing your calisthenics training, and leading up to the surgery, we did knee specific strength training. Like, we really doubled down on it. And that set you up for a pretty good recovery, didn't it? Because I remember watching you move, like even just a week or two after the surgery. Like, I had to put the brakes on you for, you were asking me, can I just go straight back into heavy squatting? And I told you about just being a little bit progressive and layering it on. But you just recovered so quickly from it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, when I went to see the surgeon, he was just like, oh, just such great muscle mass in your knee. It's just going to be a breeze. I can't see any problems with it. And then when we came out of surgery, just like, it went really well. I don't envisage any problems. So I put that down to the training before we went into it.
Yep.
And obviously afterwards as well.
100%. And that's a really important point to make for anyone who's going through this sort of journey. So Rad and I like to poo-poo surgery and going under the knife, and the reason is because it can't be reversed and it's never 100% recovery. People think that going in for a surgery, you're going to recover 100%, but the reality is that no tissue except bone tissue heals 100%. There's always scar tissue after going under the knife, and so it's physiologically impossible to have a 100% recovery. You can return to the things you were doing at full capacity, but that doesn't mean that the injury is fully repaired. That said, there are times when surgery is the better option, and it's something that you have to do. But there's never, ever, to my knowledge, a situation, unless it's like a trauma, like an emergency trauma where you've been in a car accident or you've fallen off a huge height and shattered your bones and all that sort of thing. There's never a situation where elective surgery is better off done before you've done some training. Like, if the more physical preparation you can have going into the surgery, the better, because you set yourself up for a better recovery. And I think that's really, really worth acknowledging. The hard work you did prior certainly did set you up for a better recovery. And that's a message that anyone who's sort of considering elective surgery for an injury, whether it be for a shoulder injury, a slap tear, a knee reconstruction like we've had, or anything, you really want to go in there as strong as possible, because it's quite shocking. And I don't know if you experienced this, Aidan. For me, it was really shocking how quickly I lost muscle size after surgery. Like, sitting in, for about a week, all I could do was sit on the ground and flex the muscles and do things. And I literally watched my quadriceps disappear. Like, it was like, what the hell has happened? It was, it happened so quickly. So I can't even imagine what it would be like going into that experience having really bad muscle mass already.
I was amazed how much strength I lost in only a week afterwards from trying to do pull-ups with the knee. I couldn't do half as many as I could before I went in, and that was the upper body, and I hadn't really stopped training. I only had 2 days off, and it was amazing. I was absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah, because the nervous the nervous system takes a hit after surgery. So even though you're training muscles that haven't, really had that much of a break from training and haven't been operated on, your whole nervous system is affected by it. It's incredible. But you've regained it really quickly, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I've certainly tried. I'd say I'm probably 80% of the way there on most things that I've tried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After 3 months, that's remarkable, though. Like, I remember it took me about 10 months to be back to like full capacity work after post surgery. And I've just had hand reconstruction, and I'm still. That was in May. So June, July, August, September, October, 5 months. I'm 6 months post surgery on the hand, and you still, I notice things. I keep dropping my electric toothbrush when I'm brushing my teeth. Like, I can't grip the electric toothbrush the way I used to. Oh man, but it's a journey, right? And that's the thing with surgery that people need to understand. Like, it's a journey, and the more work you do prior to the surgery, the better. Rad and I always say, irrespective of whether you opt for surgical intervention, you got to start structural balance training as soon as possible now, because you're setting up the foundation. Like, it's like strength is a skill, right? And just like riding a push bike or any skill, once you've learnt it, it comes back really quickly if you have a break from it. So when you go through that period of initial post-surgery rehab, which is really basic usually, like it's just about getting the muscles contracting again, and you're slowly working up to being able to do, like for a knee, it's to be able to sit out and stand out of a chair and then take a step and then go downstairs like that. You're reintroducing these basic movements. The first few weeks are super painful, but it comes back so much quicker. The relearning process of these movement patterns come back so much quicker if you're a trained individual compared to an untrained individual, like a general population who never works out, And I've had over the years, I don't know, maybe 5 different surgeries on different joints of the body, ankles, all usually from trauma. I've had an accident, and I just can't imagine going through it as an untrained individual. Like Rad and I are blessed, and yourself now being a well-trained individual, that life is just easier, especially going through a surgical
if you imagine
intervention.
going through all of this without knowing how to do strength training for your lower body, like it would have been a really different experience for you.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. 100%.
How do you
Just
feel?
made the whole process of recovery easier.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And how do you feel now? How does your knee feel?
Yeah, most of the time it's absolutely fine. Occasionally you get a twinge in it or a bit of pain, mainly when I've been kneeling down for a long time. But I have to do that at work. I have to kneel down, which is the reason really why I got the operation.
Yep.
If I'd have actually had an office job, I probably wouldn't have got it. There wasn't enough pain there. It wasn't stopping me from sitting down and playing on the computer. It was basically only because I had a physical job that I had to get it to get me back working.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably will experience some level of discomfort in certain positions for the rest of your life. It's like Yanni said before, that knee will never be the same again. And that's okay. That's just life. I've got 2 shoulders that will never be the same again from slap tears and torn rotator cuffs. But I can still do everything that I want to be able to do. I can still train. I can still, sometimes I get up and it hurts me to put my arm in this position and I've got to do a few exercises to make that not feel painful. It's just what happens as you get older, One of our, if you've watched all of our interviews, you've seen the interview with our member Paul, the spine surgeon. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Something that I love that he says when we were talking about the problem with people using radiology, X-rays, CT scans, things like that to determine what's going on in their body is that I've never heard anybody say this. It was really funny when he said it. He said, radiologists, they say everything that they see. So it's kind of like walking outside and describing that the sky is blue. Like, of course, the sky's blue. Everybody can see it. But when you write down everything that they can see within somebody's body, and you read that, you think, oh my God, I'm just a pile of shit. Like I'm going to fall apart at any minute. I've got
a mess.
Yeah, I've got this and that going on. But he goes, again, these are his words, not exactly verbatim, but he basically said, if you're over 40, we've all got wrinkles on our face, our hair's receding, our hairs are going grey, we've got greys in our beard. That's on the outside. The exact same thing's going on the inside of your body. There's all these things that are happening on the inside of your body that are deterioration in the joints, and it's okay. We just learn to live with it. And I think so many people, we get comments like this from people on YouTube all the time where people are so afraid that they've been told that they need surgery or that they have this injury and that it's going to be the end of them. And if you don't know better and you're just listening to, because I've had surgery as well. I've only had surgery for a traumatic injury once, but I remember sitting with 4 surgeons before I chose the surgeon that I went with. And they tell you this statistical data. They say there's a 33% chance that this is going to happen and a 33% chance that that's going to happen. And you listen to it and you just think, oh my God, I'm stuffed. But it's your response to it that really matters, because, they don't say to you, 3% of people have absolutely 0 symptoms because they put a lot of effort into training and they don't take no for an answer, and they, and that's who all of we are, and hopefully the people that are listening to the podcast, that hopefully that's who you are as well. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, look, does it still hurt when you squat? Like when you're doing your squats in your workouts? No. Yeah.
No, full range of movement in it, and it's fine. The main pain I get is since I've gone back into middle splits training.
Yeah.
And it's ache. It's not pain, I would say.
Is that is that on the inside of the knee that you feel that, like in there?
No, it's actually at the back of the knee where the cyst is.
Yeah, right. Be careful with
Yeah.
that. Be really careful with that. You've got to, everything that you do, you've always got to look at risk versus reward. And something that Yanni and I have both gone through that was one of the hardest experiences of my adult life was accepting that there were certain things that I wanted to be able to do with my body that I can't do anymore without high risk. And unfortunately for me, they were all related to martial arts. I did Kung Fu for 13 years and I did something called Wushu, which has a lot of acrobatics and a lot of high kicks in it. And I loved it. It was really my identity when I was in my 20s. And then when I joined the army, I didn't do any Wushu training for 4 years. And when I got out, I almost felt like I had lead legs because I always took it for granted that I could jump really high. And all of a sudden I just couldn't jump that high anymore because I hadn't trained it for so many years. And I was only 34. And I really started, there was a period of time at Unity Gym where I was really going for it. And I wanted to regain, what I'd lost, and I wanted to get back there. And it was really the first time that I got a feeling of what it felt like to age and what it felt like to try to get something back that you can't even believe that you lost in the first place, And in that process, I had a couple of injuries, and the one that really, really stopped me in my tracks, I didn't get it diagnosed. Maybe I did. I can't remember. But I had a really bad injury on one of my toes. It sounds stupid, your toe, but if you've ever really stuffed your toe, you know all about it. But it just went all purple. And I do think I got a scan because I remember being told that one of the tendons on my toe had pulled a chip of bone off with it. And it wasn't like a surgery related thing, but it was enough that it was like, I've really got to stop. And it affected me for a good year. For a year, I was really had to walk in a funny way, and a lot of things hurt, and I couldn't run at all. And I just went through this process of, and I'm going somewhere with this, I'm relating it to your middle splits here. I went through this process of really sort of going inward and thinking, how important is it to me that I can still do these acrobatics and have this level of athleticism that I had really easily when I was in my 20s, considering that I can now really feel the dangers and risks of it that I didn't used to feel before? And the answer was simple. It wasn't that important to me. Because I'm quite a black or white person. I try to look at things very black or white. And I would think, how would life look in 10 years' time if I couldn't do any of this stuff, but I was getting stronger, I was being able to express my athleticism through other things, through like strength training and calisthenics and handstands and things like that. Or, if I go down this route where I'm really still pursuing these acrobatics and high level of martial arts, but I'm potentially running the risk of having a really bad injury that means I can never do something like, it changes my body forever. And the answer was really simple. I was like, no, it doesn't matter to me that much. And so the reason I'm saying that is because something like the middle splits, if it causes pain on your knee, when you've had surgery like this and when you've had an injury like this, just the pursuit of the middle splits, of trying to get better at something like that, can be the thing that makes your knee get so bad that you do start feeling pain even just when you're squatting, or even just when you kneel down a little bit at work and things like that. So I'm not saying don't do it at all, but don't push through pain at all. And you might feel like you can't get nearly as far as what you're used to being able to get, that you have to reduce the volume. You might feel like that even when you ever do the active middle splits or any of those exercises like that it hurts. But if you do loaded Cossack squats, it doesn't hurt. Just be, especially only 3 months after surgery. Like for the next 12 months, you want to be really avoiding anything that causes pain in that knee and focusing on pain-free strength training. That's really, really important. And you want to get
funny actually, because my middle splits are better now than before I went for the operation. It's really odd. It's really strange.
The
pain I get is in butterfly.
Oh, it's in the butterfly, is it?
Yeah, it's in butterfly.
Okay, well, just be careful with the butterfly then. If you're doing the middle splits and it doesn't hurt the knee, then keep going with it. Just as always, this doesn't change from the way that I've always coached you, but never push through pain when you do loaded flexibility training. Just allow it to happen and focus on the end range contractions. That's, that should be pain free on the knee, and you can really push it there.
Yeah, I was going to say I have an anecdotal experience with coming out off the back of surgery because I had a hamstring graft, meaning they harvested the semitendinosus in the hamstring, which is the middle hamstring tendon, and used that to repair my ACL, to replace my ACL, which removed one of the friction points for the flexibility. My tightest area of the body was my hamstrings. So what it did was it reduced the muscle mass in the hamstring on the right side by about 30% instantly, but it unlocked way more mobility in that side. And what I found was in stretches like the pancake, my right side was way more flexible now than my left. And what ended up happening was, pushing a loaded pancake, I tore the left hamstring because I was trying to get to the point that the right side would allow. And about a year after the surgery, I really badly tore my left hamstring, which put me out for ages. I was so pissed off because it was just so silly that I was trying to push that side that still had all the tendons intact as much as the side that had one of the tendons, which was one of the tighter tendons, removed. Yeah. But it's just one of those things. Yeah. You've got to adapt. Everything has to adapt after the surgery. And you've got to sort of, like Rad said, just take it nice and gradually, because your body's learning to move and operate around that limitation that you've got there, And as I said, post-surgery, you'll always have scar tissue. You'll always have things there that are slightly different, and that may or may not limit your movement in future, but the body has to adapt and adjust to it, and that takes a bit of time. So just take it nice and easy.
You just want to focus on getting as strong as you can. Get as strong as you can and build as much muscle as you can. If you're not training like a bodybuilder, a lot of people, especially martial artists, you think, I don't want to get bulky. Man, it's so hard to get bulky. It really is. You're not an endomorph, so a mesomorph. So no, an endomorph. You're not somebody who puts on weight really easily.
Meso or endo, really. Ecto's the one that doesn't put on much weight. Yeah.
You're probably more like a mesomorph, to look at your frame and to think of how you've gone from 25% body fat to 15% body fat. You're probably a mesomorph. So you'll put on muscle, but it won't just be boom. You won't just go like that. But the older that we get, the harder it is to put on muscle and to maintain it. We're all losing testosterone by a certain amount every year, and so just focus on being as strong as you can, training full range strength training, doing your flexibility training still with your UMS workouts, and your knee will be as good as it can be.
Yeah. So say what has helped as well, because I am someone who likes to push a little bit and probably do a little bit more than I probably should. So, like, first week of the rehab training, I think I was doing step downs off quite a large step, and you were just like, no, you just stop that. It's way too far. That's probably helped me out. So I probably would have ended up injuring myself. That's one good thing about the UMS is, like, you're getting that one-on-one coaching, saying, look, stop what you're doing. You're going too far, and I think that's really helped in my recovery as well. It's baby steps rather than giant leaps.
It absolutely has. You've potentially dodged a bullet just by uploading those videos so that I could look at what you're doing. I do remember that now. I remember you were a week after surgery and you were doing step downs on a really high step, and I was like, oh, dude, let's bring it down a little bit. Yeah, it's something that it's one of the superpowers of the UMS, and it's just fortunate enough for Yanni and me that we aligned with mentors that. The notable ones are Charles Poliquin and Tony Battaggi, that really taught us how to train progressively, how to use periodization and how to understand how to take somebody from this point to this point with steps, which so many people don't understand. If you get all your information from YouTube videos and you're seeing people say, this is a great exercise for this, but no exercise is inherently the best exercise. there's the exercise that's best for each person to get from this level to that level. But, you know, if you're on this level, then it's going to be a different exercise that's going to be the best exercise for you, you know. So, no, it's good, man. Yeah, you're doing
and
really
sometimes
well.
it's about what you take away from the journey. For me, for years after my surgery, I was just beating up my knee because I was continually trying to squat ass to grass still. And in reality, the damage that had happened to my knee, and for most people who have had meniscal surgery, taking the knee to full flexion under load is not ideal anymore, you know. And it took me years to get over my ego and say, okay, I just am not meant to squat ass to grass anymore. So now I squat just past parallel. And ever since making that change and not forcing the knee under load into full flexion, I'm not getting the flare-ups with my knee anymore, you know. And it's just, you sort of go, oh, it's not as cool. I don't look as good in the gym. I don't feel like I'm doing it right sometimes, you know. But the reality is that I just had to get over that sort of ego and say, why am I wanting to squat ass to grass? Why am I wanting to have the deepest, best looking squat in the gym? Is it more important than my knee health? The last time I went to the surgeon because it started to flare up really badly again after I kicked a football. I coached both of my kids' soccer teams, football teams. And one day I just had a little bit of a kick around with the older kid. They're in the under 10s, but they're a junior development team. So they're the team's quite talented. And I had a bit of a run around with them. And after that, my knee just completely blew up again. So I went back to the surgeon and said, what's going on? We did some more MRIs. We found that there was new tears in the meniscus. And they just dropped the hammer on me and said, listen, the next surgery we do is a knee replacement. We can't do that yet. You know, you're only 46, 45 years old. We want to get the knee to at least 60 years old, because once you have a knee replacement, your gym is gone. That's it. You know, you're not going to be squatting anymore. You're not going to be doing all the things you love. So you need to ask yourself, like, is it really that important that you're lifting 160 kilo in a deep squat and doing these things? Because if it's not, you need to change the way you're training a little bit, you know. And it was a real ego thing for me. I loved training heavy. I liked being the guy in the gym that everyone looks at and goes, Jesus, you know, look how strong and flexible that guy is. But that was really it. Like that, I can still train my legs and they still look great and muscular, and I still feel strong. I just have to take it a bit slower. It's always just a matter of like, why am I doing this, and what am I doing? And that, you know, I think everyone who's had surgery, you should probably think like that. You know, why am I doing what I'm doing, and if it's the best. But what you said before is super important, and I still go back to this. Like, imagine going through this without having the support and supervision of a good tribe who know what they're doing, who can help guide you. And I just fear for anyone who's out there training on their own without the supervision of people who have walked that path before them and have that experience and guidance. You know, I just think, wow, that would be a terrifying thing to have to do. Go through surgery when you're untrained. Like Rad said before, everyone has wrinkles on the outside. And as Paul, our surgeon client, said, you've got wrinkles on the inside too, same as the surgeon that spoke to me. Imagine being untrained and how bad the body would look, you know, being super overweight or just not well. And so we're all very blessed, I think, in our tribe that we're actually doing the work and we're trained and we're well prepared for the natural vicissitudes of life, the ups and the downs, the setbacks, the injuries, you know, the surgeries, things like that.
Yeah, it's relating it back to your butterfly and knee pain, Aidan. I have a similar story with my shoulder and my slap tear. When for every injury that you guys in the UMS, you're fortunate enough. You guys benefit from Yanni and me having injured almost every major joint in our bodies, from ankles, knees, hips, spines, shoulders, elbows, and wrists. We actually have had injuries on all of the major joints that we've had to rehabilitate. And you guys benefit from our understanding of how to do that in a layered approach of, bit by bit by bit by bit, so that it feels like every week, like, oh my God, this is so boring. But then you look back after 3 months, and you look at where you are only 3 months post surgery, and you're just going forward. And if you think about, my friend Aaron says this to me whenever I talk to him. I've got a good friend who Yanni's good friends with as well, who's the same age as me, who became a personal trainer 5 years before Yanni and I did. You can go and look at him on Instagram. He's called Origin of Energy. And whenever I talk to him, he always just says, look, as long as we're getting 1% better every week, then we're beating 99% of people out there, probably 99.9%. And if you think about like that, if you can get 1% better every week, and that never changes, yeah, it's slow progression. But when you're over the age of 40, man, that compounds, pretty quickly. And I'm 47 now, Yanni's 45. Like, the way that that's compounded for me, when I look at my peers, by God, it's a different body that I'm living in compared to everybody else. But anyway, when I had my slap tear and I went through the same process, it was all these really reduced range of motion injuries, and I was working with a really good physio. And when I asked Leroy Yanni, it would have been maybe a year after, and I told him about, I've just started dips again. I don't get any pain, but I feel it in my shoulder. And he explained to me what was going on in the shoulder and why the dip causes pain. And he said, look, honestly, Rad, some people after a labrum, after a slap tear, will never do dips again, ever. It's just way too much stress on the shoulder, and it's always going to cause them pain. And I've had to go through the exact same thing that Yanni has. I'll do full range of motion dips where I get my shoulders right down to the parallel bars that really feed what I think strength training should be, which is always full range expression of strength. And then that's the only thing that'll cause pain for me for the next 3 or 4 days. And it's enough pain that it's like it impacts my training. But if I do dips where I stop, at maybe 80% of what full range of motion is, then I'm pain free and I can still, build muscle. I can still build strength and still do all of that. And so you just want to work those things out for yourself as well, Aidan, with your knee. There'll be things that I might say to you, do this, it's in your program, but there's no way that you can do it without pain, and just communicate that to me, explore it, find the ways that you can train that aren't making things worse. A little bit of discomfort during the training session is not necessarily a bad thing. Pain that develops a couple of days after a training session, or pain that continues to progress as time goes by, that's a real problem, and that's something that needs to be addressed and looked at. So and it's a sort of test and adjust process.
Yeah, completely get that. But it's also good to have the drop down menu as well, where you can choose something different.
Yeah.
So if there's something that I know I can't do, I can go to something I know.
Yeah.
Which is ideal, really.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
And the most important thing, I think, the big message for you personally is just keep communicating, because you've got us as much or as little as you choose, and you can always, if you're unsure of something or unconfident, you can always ping us a message and say, hey, I am not sure about this. Can we change it? Or what do you think about this? And we'll battle test it with you,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yep. Brilliant.
Well, we'll let you get to bed, mate. It's 11:30 for you now, so thank you so much for giving up your time at this time of day, and I really look forward to seeing what the next 12 months brings for you, because this is just the beginning, really.
It's like a new beginning, isn't it?
It is.
You've started so long, and then you're starting again.
Yeah, yeah, that's
so
it.
Roll on.